In this series of top tips, we're looking at various techniques for adding realism to your parks. This week, we're going to be talking about coasters. Much like using reference imagery for buildings, when it comes to coasters, the first thing you want to do is look at real-life examples. Remember, a lot of parks won't have the budget for a custom coaster, and they'll go with a pre-existing design. Take Zera, for example. They produced the Tivoli series of coaster layouts creatively named Small, Medium and Large, found in hundreds of parks across the world. If you're anything like me, I'd much rather spend my time theming a coaster than building it from scratch. However, if custom coasters are more your thing, that's absolutely fine, but make sure you build it using the specifications for that coaster type. Say you decide on an inverted. Think about choosing a manufacturer and using their design specifications. B&M, Vekoma or Intamin are all great examples of veteran coaster makers whose technical specifications are readily available online. Can't be bothered faffing with lengthy documents? No problem. The technique I use most often is using coaster POVs. Pick any of the thousands of existing coaster layouts that already exist, find a POV on YouTube and just replicate it section by section. Provided you've picked the matching coaster type in Planet Coaster, all the relevant elements should be included. As this video is more about realism, I won't go into detail about the build process, but there are plenty of videos online for creating a smooth coaster layout. I'll put a link in the description to one of Nerd Chacho's recent videos explaining the 4-meter method. The next important step is to think about the number of trains needed for your coaster. Have a think about a sensible number of trains to be running at any one time based on your park's capacity. But remember, the more trains you add, the more block sections you'll need. A block section is a point on the track where the train will wait for the next section of track to be clear before continuing, so make sure you position these appropriately. Nobody likes to stop and wait halfway around the track. Next, decide if your coaster needs a transfer track and maintenance shed. Have a look if it's a requirement on real-life counterparts. For some smaller coasters, the park will just lift cars off the track at the station, but large coasters with multiple trains will almost always have a transfer track. This allows the park to vary the number of trains on the track for different seasons and also makes maintenance a much more streamlined process. The most common styles of transfer tracks are either switch tracks or sliding tracks. Once again, have a look at the usual setup for your coaster type. Remember to connect your maintenance shed to a service road or wide enough path for a large vehicle. One area of coaster building that terrifies a lot of players is custom supports. Some people like to custom support their entire coaster, but really you just need to make sure every part of the track is adequately supported. If your track comes too close to another piece of track or your coaster hangs over a path, Planet Coaster will often remove the supports for that section. However, if we're going for realism, your coaster won't look right with random bits of floating track. For some unknown reason, you'll find the framework section under walls. In there are a whole bunch of handy pieces for supporting your coaster, including concrete footers, supports and flanges. As well as the vanilla pieces, there are a load of TMTK pieces on the workshop for specific coaster manufacturers, such as B&M and Intamin. Once your coaster's in place, think safety. Is every area adequately fenced off? Do you have plenty of signage and CCTV in place? Some parks will actually have 2 levels of fencing just for that added security. Once again, take a look at some real parks and how they secure their ride area from the public. Maintenance staff will need a way into the ride area from both the station and the perimeter, but make sure to add some signage. Finally, it's time to add some scenery. A lot of Planet Coaster players will go all out to decorate every inch of the coaster track. But remember, most low to mid-budget parks have minimal theming, so don't feel forced to litter your ride area with random bits and pieces. For example, Nemesis at Alton Towers feels like a heavily themed ride, but besides the alien station building, the rest is just a lot of rockwork, tunnels and greenery. Again, Oblivion has an elaborate queue line with storytelling and an immersive station building, but the track itself has very little theming. Once you've picked a theme and a ride name to match, it's all about the smaller details. It might sound ridiculous, but sometimes the right fencing, a consistent colour scheme and some music is enough to immerse your guests. If you've decided you do want some heavy theming, remember quality over quantity. Soar the Ride at Thorpe Park has some incredibly highly detailed theming, but just limited to the indoor and lift hill sections. Concentrate on some key moments rather than the entire ride duration. Ride areas are fairly often overgrown and unloved. Think about adding some trees, bushes and various terrain paints. A great tip is to either add some dirt beneath each support where the grass would have stopped growing, or add a bush where groundskeeping weren't able to cut the grass. As always, my advice is to take from real life. Use real specifications, POVs, even Google Maps. Don't beat yourself up if you can't design and theme a smooth coaster from scratch. People train for years to be able to do that in the real world. Consider yourself the park designer, flicking through an endless catalogue of existing coaster designs to find the perfect coaster for your park. Next week, we'll be talking about queues, paths and plazas. As always, don't forget to like the video if you found it helpful, and I'll see you next week for more tips and tricks.